Hello, bird nerds, plant nerds. I am Grant. I am a horticulturist. I am a bird nerd. I love talking about plants that have some wildlife value in the garden, in a wildlife friendly garden that I like to call a habitat garden. If you've been here waiting for me for a minute or two, sorry. But here we are. Today, butterfly attracting plants. I'm going to give you a list of 50 plants which upon checking, they all seem to be available in nurseries in the zones that they are um, useful for. Um, I have produced documents again. I really think I'm going to have to give up and they're going to have to be on Substack. I don't know. I'm still playing around with it. Bear with me. Bear with me. If you do want something very quickly, any of the things we've talked about in the last few weeks, do um, do send me a message or an email, grant@thebirdemergency.com, or a message on the X or uh, the Blue Sky or the YouTube. That's where I prefer to get things. On the comment on the YouTube is always good. Okay, how I'm going to do this is we can have discussions as I always like to. So if you've got something you would like to add or ask a question or make a comment or tell me something about uh, your experience, please do. But I have a list of 50 commonly available plants in nurseries that I'm just going to tell you a little bit about why they are good for attracting butterflies or other pollinators. Now, I have created a large document. I have created one for each habitat zone. Um, Now, that's how we're going to work out how to get those distributed. Um, but for now, for the purposes of the live stream, which happens every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or in the summertime Eastern Daylight Time, 9:30 a.m. On the YouTube, on the Twitch, and for still a short time on the Facebook. So if you are a Facebook user and you are also a YouTube user, head over to the Bird Emergency on YouTube, the Bird Emergency channel on YouTube. If you're a Twitch user, stay on Twitch. Okay, small to medium trees. Acacia fimbriata, fringed wattle. I have a story to tell too at the end. I've had a I wouldn't say confrontation, but I had an episode this week with the local council trying to remove the last group of shrubs, all acacias, all one species of acacia, and mass planting the last of the plants that hold foliage down to ground level. I heard the chainsaw start and I went over and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And anyway, this prompted a discussion between me and the worker, and then his direct manager, and then the manager's direct manager at the council. Anyway, I will tell you about that after we get through this list. Acacia fimbriata, the fringed wattle. Hardy is a word that you can apply to this. It means it will tolerate varied conditions in the garden. Flowers in spring, and being an acacia flower. It's a delicate white mass flower. The case is, as you probably know, either rods or balls, generally, the flowers. Um, Adult butterflies will visit those flowers. So in spring, uh, to feed upon. Acacia dealbata, you may know the silver wattle, uh, very bright golden flowers. Now, not only do butterflies and some other nectar feeder insects visit the flowers, this is a host plant for many native butterfly caterpillars. So, two uses in the garden, but essentially, its main value is as a host plant for caterpillars. Eucalyptus leucoxylon, the yellow gum, I've spoken about the Eucalyptus leucoxylon and its cultivars and subspecies many times. Nectar rich blossoms uh, over a great period of the year. The ones in the park here are flowering now and have been for months. It's not the main flowering period right now, but they are flowering. Another small to medium tree, Brachychiton populneus, or the currajong, uh, holds its foliage densely, um, but also has the pendulous uh, uh, inverted urn flowers and many flowers, butterflies, but also many of the small beetles and flies will actually get up inside the flowers to harvest nectar there. Last of the small medium trees, Banksia integrifolia, the coast Banksia, uh, butterflies, native bees, native flies, all visit the flowers for nectar. Okay, now we've uh, got shrubs. Again, you may already be familiar with many of these because they are plants that I have checked that are locally, like in the climate zones, recommended climate zones. I have a detailed document for each of the climate zones. We'll talk about that again. These you should find in your local nursery that is stocking a good range of native plants. Many of these you'll find in a Bunnings. Okay, shrubs. Grevillea robin Gordon. Main benefit is it flowers mostly during over most of the year. Abundant nectar. Butterflies visit them. Also very good for birds. Grevillea rosemarinifolia. Gee, we've spoken a lot about Grevillea rosemarinifolia in recent times. The rosemary grevillea, spiky, dense foliage, very hardy, adaptable grevillea, perhaps over time the most widely grown grevillea anywhere. Butterflies will feed on the flowers, and it's a great refuge plant for small birds, and birds will also visit the flowers for nectar. We have a Melaleuca, the thyme honey myrtle, or Melaleuca thymifolia. Purple flowers, a favourite for butterflies. Butterflies feeding upon those flowers. A bottle brush now, Callistemon viminalis, the weeping bottle brush. Nectar-rich red flowers, ideal for butterflies, particularly large butterflies. And as you move further north in Australia, where the Callistemon viminalis naturally occurs, some of our spectacular native butterflies will be found feeding on them at the peak flowering period. In the temperate zone, this is a long flowering species. And if you look for the Dawson River weeper cultivar, that is most likely the one that you're going to find in nurseries. a tea tree now, Leptospermum scoparium, uh, which is the common tea tree that most of the cultivars that you will see, like the double petaled, triple petaled, pink or dark red varieties, are all based on this species. Pink to white, generally the flowers are. Butterflies and native bees feed on this plant. Also, it's a refuge plant, dense habit, and when the flowers turn into their woody seed capsules, you'll find some of the smaller parrots, some of the larger parrots and smaller cockatoos will pull them apart and feed on them. Coria reflexa, the native fuchsia, again, all the corias pretty much will fall into this category, but they have a bell-shaped pendulous flower, and butterflies, native butterflies, will feed on them. I've also seen small beetles up in the flowers. Seems like so many of these I talked about last week. Philotheca myoporoides, the wax flower, but not the West Australian wax flower. White star-shaped flowers. Butterflies will feed on the flowers, and some species of native butterflies will use it as a host plant. Eremophila maculata, the spotted emu bush, we talked about this many weeks in a row. Butterflies really like the Eremophila, and it is a very nectivorous. No, it's not nectivorous. It provides a lot of nectar. There we are. It's also a desert plant, naturally a desert plant, so very drought hardy. Hakea lorena, again, these are all plants we talked about, I think, last week and the week before. The pincushion hakea, red and white ball-shaped flowers that open out, very rich in nectar. Birds love it. Butterflies also love it. Also quite a long flowering hakea too, long flowering period. They can be extended with a bit of regular pruning. Devesia ulicifolia, the bitter pea, host plant. This is a host plant for butterfly larvae. Does have pea flowers. Small butterflies and insects will feed on the flowers, but its main value in a habitat garden is as a host plant for selected butterfly species. Now, in the more detailed handouts that I'm producing for this, I'll try and match particular species with particular plants in the habitat zones. Another acacia, the Sydney golden wattle, or the called the coast wattle in some parts of the country, Acacia longifolia, Sydney golden wattle, spring flowers, small insects will feed on the flowers, but mostly they are a caterpillar host plant for some species of caterpillars. Berseria spinosa, the sweet Berseria, again, a plant I've mentioned many times as a refuge plant. Also fragrant, small white flowers. Native butterflies love this plant. They love the flowers. They feed on the flowers. They're fragrant. They will attract butterflies and moths. And they are a host species for many of our native indigenous moths and butterflies. Now, I keep saying that I need to provide you with some of the target species, don't I, that we can talk about. Melaleuca nesophila, the showy honey myrtle. This is the purple flowered Melaleuca that I've mentioned many times before. Uh, it's quite long flowering, really adaptable. Stan, g'day, Stan. Yes, don't forget the moss too. Um, uh, 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 I I will try and do something particular about moss. I think the way I'll handle that, Stan, is uh, identifying the target butterfly and moth species that you're likely to find in the different climate zones and matching them to some appropriate plants. That's quite a big document, and um, I I've produced a document with 300 species, but still that doesn't really cover in depth each zone. Now you were sent a story about the butterfly and moth friendly plants at the local school. That's that's terrific. There are a lot of local groups that are starting to do this work, so I'm really pleased that the information is out there. Um, there's a general rule, but remember, general rules are not hard and fast. But generally, if you can find a fragrant flower, uh, that's generally one that a moth will be attracted to, and often bats as well. We'll talk about bats in a different context. These plants I'm talking about now are really butterfly and moth attractant, and I've tried to give a a good range of plants that are food and shelter for caterpillars, and maybe if the caterpillars are using them, they're generally a place uh, that the adult butterflies or moths will lay eggs. So they may not be one that the insects will feed or will feed on the flowers. Here we are, Stan. Other flowering species, acacias, Canedia prostrata, are also planted in the gardens to increase the chances of attracting native butterflies. Well, we've already done two acacias, and there are some more coming. Um, Better just check. There are some more coming, and there are some Canedias coming. Um, yeah. Okay. Where did I get to? Melaleuca Nosophila, didn't I? Nectar rich for butterflies. That one. Um, Now this is one I know the moths love, and it's uh, Grevillea moonlight, creamy white flowers, very uh, copious in its nectar production. Um, Flowers for um, a good period of the year, maybe even 6 months or so. Um, it's like so many of the cultivar grevilleas, very reliable now. Um, Adaptable to many soils, pots, many garden situations. So I'm happy to recommend Grevillea Moonlight. If you want a large shrub or Grevillea um, that is quite unusual, but is mostly a moth attractor, Grevillea leucopterus. Look for that one. Grevillea. Look, I found a idiot who I have to block. Um, so yeah. Oh, why can't I do that? There we are. All right. No, 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 no. Pultonea daphnoides, large leaf bush pea. Lots of Pultoneas, Divisias, and similar are um, are available. So, so I just can't believe why people take the trouble to spam. Now this is a host for the pea blue group of butterflies. And they have those egg and bacon yellow orange egg and bacon flowers. They're one of the pea flowers with little casings for their seeds. But the pea blue butterflies will lay their eggs and feed on the Pultonea daphnoides. That means lots of Pultoneas will have butterfly that use them as hosts. Okay, some ground covers now. Hardenbergia violacea also can be used as a climber, host for caterpillars, uh, and the flowers, which are purple, mauve, and some varieties of white, uh, they attract butterflies. That's the purple coral pea or the native sarsaparilla or just Hardenbergia, common name. Canetia prostrata, the running postman, that's the one for you, Stan. Red pea flowers, food for butterfly larvae. So butterflies will lay their eggs on running postmen and caterpillars will feed on them. But adult butterflies will also feed on the scarlet pea style flowers. We did talk about the Viola heteracea, the native violet, white and mauve flowers, a small ground cover, good for shady and damp situations. Also, as an understory plant under eucalypts in a sort of woodland kind of setting. Uh, Host plant for butterflies, for the larvae. The common everlasting or the Chrysocephalum apiculatum, uh, excellent as a nectar source for adult native butterflies and non-native butterflies will be using them as well. Goodenia ovata, the hop goodenia, is the next one. Yellow pea flowers. Uh, Butterflies will feed on the flowers, but they are another host plant. So goodenias, pultoneas, divisias, gonphalobiums, all those kind of uh, pea flowers are host plants to some of the local butterflies and moths. Scaevola amula, the fan flower. We've talked a lot about scaevolas as ground covers over the time. A nectar source for butterflies and small beetles and native flies. Ruby saltbush uh, provides nectar, but also a shelter plant, a host food plant for a variety of butterflies and moths. Enchelina tomentosa. Enchelina tomentosa, ruby saltbush. You'll Yeah, but they're not the saltbush that you will usually find labeled. This is what common names are terrible. Uh, the saltbush that you'll find in arid zones is not this kind of plant. I've talked about Ostromertus dulcis before. Has a little berry, uh, quite uh, well, produces quite a lot of nectar, then edible berries. Small insects will eat will feed on the flowers. They'll also bore into the uh, uh, All right, Charlie, thanks for that question. Um, just finish up with the osteomertis. Um, the uh, the berries will be eaten by birds, but they'll also be partially eaten by native mammals. They'll chew on them, and insects will bore into them and eat them. So I'm guessing that's going to be caterpillars. I'm not sure if they're a host plant for the feeding on the leaves, but could well be, because generally, if they're popular for a couple of reasons, uh, food for a caterpillar might be one. Charlie, what's the best way to propagate the native viola, which is Viola heteracea, which we were just talking about? Um, just divide them up. Get a sharp spade. Make sure it's sharp, and just um, dig them. Now, if you um, don't dig them out of the bush, please. That would be my uh, first thought. So the easiest way to propagate them is divide them. If you buy them in a pot, if you buy a 140 mil pot, you can get easily, if it's a healthy, vigorous plant, you can get 4 out of one pot. Would be my suggestion. You can also propagate violas by a leaf cutting. So you can pluck off a leaf or a little stem. You'll notice if you uh, pull up a growing stem of a viola, you'll see that where at each node point they'll often have roots just starting to develop. So you can just cut off little little pieces with some roots that are beginning to form on the nodes, and just lay them on some propagating mix. Um, they need to be protected and kept moist if you use this method. But that's an easy way too. But the most reliable way is if you want to fill a space uh, with native violas, um, and you can afford to work out how many you think you need, placing them at maybe 1.5 meter centers, and then go and buy 25% of the amount that you've calculated, and then with a sharp spade, uh, divide them up and plant them at those centers. Um, if you're planting like that, if you're mass planting uh, for native violas, the Viola heteracea, they can be gross feeders. So when you get them established, when you're planting them, make sure you do put a nice slow release native blend or native formulation fertilizer. Prills are really good. Remember, if you're using something like the chook pellet manure kind of fertilizer, using a brand name like Dynamic Lifter or something like that, um, that's not a uh, that's not a long acting or slow release fertilizer like most of the good prills are. Hope that helps, Charlie. If you want a bit more of a tip on the native violet, the one thing I've found when propagating the native violet is if you're dividing them, you don't need to worry about really protecting them too much from giving them a semi shade or a shady spot to recover. They do need to be kept moist while they're re-establishing, and it's always good to plant them into a moist uh, zone anyway. So you want to be well watering the area that you are going to plant them into. But if you're doing leaf cuttings or something like that, I would be trying to move them into if you've got some way of rigging up a shade house or some protected spot in the patio or veranda or something like that. Keep them out of the wind and out of direct sun while they um, while they establish. You'll get quicker results by dividing up an existing pot. I hope that helps. All right, climbers and vines. Pandaria jasminoides, the bower vine. Uh, you will probably know this one. Whitey pink flowers, large. They're trumpet, vaguely trumpet shaped flowers. Butterflies will visit them. There's two pandarias that are common in cultivation in Australia. Pandaria jasminoides is a bit more delicate, and the flowers are smaller and more tubular. And the Pandaria pandarana is another one that you will see commonly in nurseries. Both very good feed for food sources in flower, nectar sources for butterflies. Clematis aristata, the old man's beard, so named because when it's flowering, you get the white after the flower, and the seed is ex, explodes, shall we say? It hangs onto the vine to be dispersed by wind, but they look fluffy like an old man's beard. Uh, White flowers in spring. The flowers are popular for moths and butterflies, and also small beetles and flies. Hibernia scandens is the climbing guinea flower or the snake vine. Uh, Bright yellow, large open petal flowers. That butterflies and moths, but butterflies particularly love to feed on. Canadian nigricans, uh, black and green, pea-shaped flower. Butterflies love it. It's also a host species. It's a vigorous pea flower uh, climber. I've mentioned it before. In some areas, has a weed potential, but um, in most suburban settings, it's a fantastic plant to use to cover an arbor or a patio, or to run down a hill if you've got to cover quickly uh, a large sloping area. Canadian nigricans is very good for that. Will run up over stumps and felled branches and things like that very quickly. It's a good bang for its buck, the Canadian nigricans. Uh, this will be common for most of the Canedias. We've talked about Canedia prostrata, the running postman. Um, I think there's about a dozen. Canedias, there's probably 6 or so that are common in cultivation in the nurseries. There's red ones. Rubicundra is uh, there's also macrophylla out there that you'll see commonly. So you can get red, vermilion, the green and black. There's white running postmans you'll find out there too. Um, Butterflies feed on the nectar, but they are also a host species for the caterpillars of native butterflies. Smilax australis. Now, Smilax was for a long time called like a native ivy. It's very not ivy like. We call it the barbed wire vine because you get caught on it when you're walking through it in forest, damp forests, and some coastal settings. It's a host plant for caterpillars of butterflies. Um, it's one of those plants that people often want to remove out of gardens or out of parkland settings, but it's really valuable for butterflies as a host plant, as a food source for caterpillars. Okay, now we're going to look at some uh, herbaceous plants. A couple of these have upright forms. Um, Dianellas, we've talked about Dianellas before. Um, oh, Charlie, just let me know. Did I give you enough detail on the native violet too? Uh, Otherwise, I will expand. Dianella carula, the blue flax lily, same for the Dianella revoluta, the spreading flax lily. One has bluer flowers than the other. Revoluta has a more mauvey purple flower. They're upright, dark green, strappy type leaves. Small butterflies will visit the flowers. Uh, Other wildlife will eat the berries. Uh, have birds will eat the berries. They have a blue berry after the blue and yellow sort of flowers are finished. They're held quite high above the foliage. Uh, a really useful native plant, landscape plant, where you need upright ground level foliage, but they're a food plant for birds, mammals, and insects. Patersonia occidentalis, another uh, upright flowered grassy um, grassy type plant. You might get an idea of what it looks like. Its name is common name purple flag iris. If you're into bulbs or traditional cottage gardens, you'll know what a flag is. You'll also know what an iris is. Um, this has a purple flower uh, that butterflies will feed on. Uh, Brunonia australis, the blue pincushion. Uh, it's fallen out of favour a bit. It used to be everywhere in the nurseries. Nectar rich flowers for small butterflies. Um, I will mention that in the big document that I've produced for these, I have some pictures so people can access those. Uh, Brachycomb multifida, the cutleaf daisy, uh, small, small blue to mauve um, daisy flowers. They're only small, sort of 10-cent piece across, but native butterflies, moths, small native flies will be on them, feeding on them. And I've mentioned goodenias in the same breath as pultoneas and divisias and gonphalobiums and all those other pea-shaped flowers. Goodenias are uh, not exactly the same, but the flowers look quite similar. They're yellow. They have a sticky, rough textured leaf. Uh, Butterflies love feeding on the flowers, but they're also a host plant for caterpillars. So um, there are a number of species of Goodenia, Goodenia varia, Goodenia ovata. Depending on your geographical location, there are a number of well, there will be one Goodenia, I would say, that you can avail yourself of. All right, grasses. Got a bunch of grasses. Um, Talked about Themata triandra, uh, kangaroo grass, uh, skipper butterflies. Skipper butterflies, particularly, uh, will lay their eggs in deep in the foliage of the Themata triandra tussock, and they are the food plant for uh, the caterpillars. Um, Ostrostipa scabra and other ostrostipers. You will find many of them just labelled as stiper, but technically Ostrostiper, correctly Ostrostiper. They are the spear grass. They are also a host plant for butterfly larvae, which means butterflies will lay their eggs in them. Lamandra longifolia, the spiny-headed mat rush, again, a food source for caterpillars. I couldn't find many instances where eggs have been uh, located on them, but they must be. Uh, I'll do more. I'll do more work on that. It seems unlikely that they're not laying that butterflies are not laying eggs at the base, at very least, of the lamandra, if those caterpillars are going to be using it as a food source. Poa labillardiere, one of my favourites. The tussock grass, or poas, just generally will be a common name for them. A shelter plant for butterflies. Also mentioned in a lot of the literature is that the caterpillars will go through their metamorphosis because the tussocks for lamandras are quite big. Can be this far across. So they will go through the metamorphosis. They will pupate. The pupae will shelter there, but they're also a food plant. And often, I couldn't find many detailed accounts of this, but that the poas are thought to have some important purpose for the male and female butterflies to find each other. So there's a lot of anecdotal information, let's put it that way, and I always like to have a bit more concrete information before I talk too much about it. Okay, last, we've just got a bunch of flowering perennials, ideal for sort of the herbaceous garden kind of use. Chrysocephalum semipaposum, clustered everlasting, another one of the native daisies. They have a long flowering period, which makes them valuable, and because native butterflies, visit them for their nectar. Senecio pinnatifolius. Now, these are common name for these. We have a lot of Senecios. They have a yellow daisy flower, generally bright green foliage, very variable foliage types in the Senecios. But I'm sure you will have noticed them often in coastal zones, but also they're in disturbed ground. They're often one of the first plants to be visible after a fire goes through, or if there's any logging or ploughing or something like that in a clearing, cleaning up in a woodland or forested setting. So Senecios are what we generally call a pioneer plant. There are many, 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 many species, and they are a food plant for butterfly and moth larvae, and also I would imagine for beetles and flies and many, many other, because they are one of the first plants to appear after disturbance. Very, very valuable for the reintroduction and re-establishment of insect populations. Calotus lapulacea, the yellow bird daisy. Funnily enough, daisy-shaped, daisy-style flowers. They're yellow. Butterflies love them, again, for nectar. Podolepis Jasioides, the showy podolepis. There are several podolepis. They are all, uh, they have a daisy style flower again. Generally, a daisy style flower that offers a platform for insects to land on will be fed on by insects. Funny about that. Podolepis are a nectar source for uh, butterflies and flies. Wallenbergia stricta, the tall bluebell. This is a tufty herbaceous plant. Probably tuft isn't the right. They're not. They don't have a lot of bulk in their upright form. They do have a little bluebell flower. They are called the tall bluebell. Wattle, Wallenbergia stricta, tall bluebell, butterfly attracting food plant. Uh, Cedar corrugata. Funnily enough, it's called the corrugated cedar, SIDA. Food plant for native butterflies. And by food plant, I mean caterpillar host plant. Okay. Um, Dampyra diversifolia is the last of the 50. We've talked about Dampyras many times before. Uh, Blue flowering, so they are useful in the garden just for their flowers, but they are a nectar food plant for butterflies. Um, just a couple of general points. Many of the pea flowering plants, I know I mentioned this at the time, Devesia, Canedia, Hardenbergia, Pultonea, Gomphilobiums, um, probably many more that I've forgotten. Uh, they are generally food plants for caterpillars. So, yeah, so any of those egg and bacon kind of orange and yellow flowers that you'll see out there, um, apart from looking good, having nice flowers, and maybe other landscape functions, they will be a caterpillar food plant for many of the native butterflies and moths. Um, most of the daisies, goodenias, the everlasting daisies, the um, Senechios, as I mentioned before, any of those sort of daisy style flower with a platform, uh, that platform and the arrangement of the petals is saying uh, to the butterflies and the moths, "Here we are, come here." So, um, if you want butterflies in your garden and moths, um, uh, a large a large number of butterfly of daisy style plants will be great. And there's many others, Illyrias I haven't talked about in this episode, but you'll find you'll find so many. I think daisies are among the most numerous uh, plants on the planet. Um, and the native grasses, Themida, Ostrostipa, Poa, Danthonia. We have many native butterflies adapted to uh, lay eggs on them or near them, under the foliage, and they are a food source for many of our native butterflies and moths. Um, so that is where I am finishing with. Um, and I would, uh, I'd just like to remind you that I am building out these uh, these documents for you. Um, and um, I will I will tell you where they're going to be available. I I want them to be. I think I've said this before. I must sound like a broken record. I want them to be available on the Bird Emergency website, and I also want to have them available on Substack, and I also want them available on um, Buy Me a Coffee. Oh, by the way, Stan, thank you very much for my 3.5. Uh, Stan bought me a couple of coffees last week, and the contribution worked out to a magnificent 3.5 beautiful soy lattes. So I appreciate them very much, Stan. Um, Now, what was I just in the middle of saying? Yes, so I'm trying to make them available in the same format on each platform, but it's not working out quite so well. And I currently have a fault on the website, which is being. I was trying to upload something up there this morning, and I have a fault on it. Now, my website is hosted in the EU, and they are. Uh, and they are working on it. So I may get that up on the website this afternoon. Stanza said, "I'm welcome and good luck with the phone and the equipment." One fixed phone. It is all one consistent width now, and it charges and it holds charge, and it does all the things phones should do. So, yes, Stan, it certainly went. The equivalent of those 3.5 coffees certainly went towards getting this fixed last week. So that was fantastic. I got to say, when I did get the phone done, I thought it was just a battery, but there was two faults with the phone. So it did. It was about 2.5 times more expensive than the last time I had it repaired. So um, this iPhone 7 uh, is now getting to be an expensive, expensive thing. Um, Does anyone want to tell me anything else about this week? I've sort of finished with what I want to say. So I have these lists. I have a list of butterfly and moth attractors, food plants, host plants. Uh, so I have a list of 300, and it's split up into the different climate zones across the country. And that is what I'm just wanting to make available. And I think I've said it before. I want to have them available two ways. One really basic form that is just free to download, but then one with cultural notes and other interesting tips and tricks that will be available to members. Uh, I've wasted a lot of time, and I should talk to you about this too, because I'm always saying, "Oh, I'll just do this." What I wanted to do was to have each each one available. I'm always wanting to give people more choice than they deserve. Um, I wanted to have each document separately available, so that if you didn't want to be a member on any of the platforms, be it Patreon or Substack or Buy Me a Coffee or whatever, that you could get access to just one. Because you might only want to know uh, uh, coastal coastal plants. You just want one. You might want to fork out just a few bucks once. Well, I was trying to do that, but it's just too difficult to make it unless I can solve the issue on the website. Then I can do it. But then you've got to go to the website and not just the other platform. I'm still mucking around with it. I'd love it all just to be on the website. I really would. I really would. Um, I really would. Anyway, that's enough. Enough mucking around. Stan, what's happening on Stradbroke Island? Those who know the could have been champions from many years ago will know why I always go Stan from Stradbroke Island instead of Kangaroo Island. What's happening on Kangaroo Island? Charlie, what else have you been growing? I wonder how Glenn's going. Oh, Loz is doing fine too, by the way. I did get a message during the week. Someone saying, why isn't Loz online very often? Uh, Loz's outside time. I'll fill you in on that. As Shadow is getting older and older, Shadow is wanting to be outside less and less. When Shadow is inside, the one thing that stimulates Shadow and makes him want to chase things and catch things is Loz flying around in the cage, flying around out of the cage and just wandering around the lounge room. Managing the two of them together at the same time is difficult. So when Shadow's outside, Loz can be out of the cage. When Shadow's inside, Loz needs to be in the cage. I'm trying to work out another solution where Loz can be in my room on his own. But there's a few modifications that need to happen to his housing and the arrangement in my room for that to happen. It's harder to get an old dog to adapt to a new situation, so that's why. So Loz is generally out really early in the morning. Like I get up extremely early, like we're talking 4:30, 5 o'clock, and as soon as Loz wakes up, he tends to get out for 3 or 4 hours, and it's Shadow doesn't really wake up and get mobile. He sleeps out in the shed nowadays. And when he gets up and mobile, Loz goes back in for his breakfast. And then during the day, when I can, I rotate them in and out. So, yeah. So, yeah, but Loz is going happy. Stan saying not much on Kangaroo Island, more algal bloom. Oh, have to say that the algal bloom off the coast of South Australia is a terrible story, and one of the things that I have got frustrated. It's been a very frustrating time. Uh, yeah, it's been a very frustrating time checking out media and social media in the last week or two. But the conversation about the algal bloom never seems to include climate change. And the conversation is about fixing this one algal bloom. But this is going to be a situation that right around the country, right around the world, these things are going to be, it'll clear up. And then within a short space of time, it will happen again. And it will happen again. And it will happen again. And there doesn't seem to be any conversation about that, which is really, really frustrating. Because once you've done one rescue package with piles of money, you have to do at least that next time, and the time after, and the time after. And there doesn't seem to be any conversation about the implications for not acting on climate. But hey, yeah. And now's a good time to say free Palestine, free Palestine. Maybe I'll do a pretend an end of the podcast or at the end of the stream now, so that I can edit to a point, and then we'll continue the conversation. Thanks for being with us on Habitat Gardening. I'll be putting up uh, these handouts as soon as I can get them organised, and I'll let you know when what they are on the socials. So thanks for being with us. 9:30 a.m. every Saturday morning, Australian Eastern Daylight or Standard Time, depending on what time of the year it is. I'm Grant. Thanks. See ya. I'm a bird nerd. I'm a horticulturist. See ya. Bye. Okay, back into just so I can cut this off from the live stream because I'm probably going to get a bit narky and aggro. I think I mentioned that I was checking out potential guests, and I've been doing it for past guests as well and looking at their social feeds. Now, I haven't removed any past guests or podcasts or anything based on what I've seen in the social media feeds, but geez, I've been tempted to. Um, but oh boy, jingos. It's I've had to cut down I've I've had to cut down my potential invitee list a lot based uh on two things. What I'm doing is two things. I am looking at what people are saying, but I'm also looking at what people are responding to other people. So I don't even want to go through the process of someone who might get upset with me saying free Palestine in a broadcast. They can just piss off. They can go and do what they want. Um, so yeah, it's a time where you have to reassess a lot of the you know casual relationships you may have had with people. I think Stan says it's infuriating, and I don't even want to quote the South. Oh, the like at the moment I'm being really critical of Labor governments because I'm disappointed because I expected more, but I got attacked on. Someone sent me a DM the other day saying you're being such a dickhead, criticizing Labor. Labor's the best that we've had, and I was saying, yeah, that's true. But they're also the most disappointing because they promise so much and they hold themselves out to be adherents to certain values, and they're walking away from some of those things. So yeah, we can't be saying, yeah, well, the Liberals are a great option. They're not. We need to be looking at this time of being a catalyst for some real change. Um, so yeah, not only is the South Australian government captured by Santos, I mean you've got several governments captured by Woodside and Chevron and all of the others. Um, it's really disappointing at this time where with the algal bloom off South Australia that the conversation has not moved really anywhere on emissions reduction and nutrient runoff and the warming uh, of our coastal waters. It just seems to me crazy that it's not uh, that governments aren't taking it as an opportunity to begin having the conversation. They're they're trying to minimise or localise, uh, but minimise the conversation, and at the same time using what's going on around the world as a distraction to avoid having the conversation. You know, there's something far more serious going on, and we've got national security and and environment. We can deal with that later. It's just rubbish. It's so disappointing. Anyway, that's my gripe for the day. Oh, one good bit of news. Oh, the Sydney Harbour Bridge pro-Palestine protest on Sunday is going ahead. Happy to see that is going ahead. Okay, I guess my best use of time, unless you've got more things you would like to share with me, is to go and keep working on this, make on the website and make sure people, the tech guys, are actually um, working on the fault. Uh, and I will let you know where and when all of these documents are available. There's a lot of them now. Um, uh, um, uh, and I will let you know where to. Um, uh, so there we are. I am just checking now that it is actually happening. Um, so yeah, thanks, Stan. Thanks, Charlie. Uh, uh, yeah, that would be great. Remember, you can always ask if you have a subject that you want me, or a type of plant or something that you do want me to check out first. Um, Charlie, good. Oh, here we go. Good. We're having conversation. Charlie says, I get it. So many people online seem to be somewhat brainwashed. It's also cool. It seems to be um, cool. Seems to be very rude and disrespectful. Cull your list of potential invites so you don't waste your time. Um, yeah, not only I don't want to waste my time, but I also don't want to have the situation where I say something and they get narky and it becomes an issue. I'd just rather not have anything to do with them. And I'm also considering having an American free zone. I don't want that to be the case, but um, it's just the level of conversation with so many people. If you want to have, if you want to extend into any kind of social issues, just seems to be really hard to have with many uh, many Americans. Yeah, I know I'm generalising and being unfair, but boy, some of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Uh, yeah, some of the stupidest conversations uh, I've ever been part of. Um, and also note, I'm having them not on the bird emergency socials too. They're happening uh, on other accounts. Um, uh, Good. It looks like I have a time frame for the. Uh, yeah, that's good. Okay. So yeah, free Palestine and fuck the IDF. There we are. That's really what I want to say today. I had an interesting conversation with somebody about um, our our government in Australia. It's becoming difficult for people to to remain supportive. Uh, so, yeah. Okay, folks. Unless there's something else we want to go to now, um, uh, we'll leave the habitat gardening here. Do have a look at the socials. I have found it easier to find guests for uh, not just another podcast. So we'll be getting that flying this week, maybe with two guests this week, two political and social commentary kind of guests this week. Bird emergency still a little bit in the bit of a work in progress. Thanks, Charlie. I hope I hope you got enough out of the viola tip. Just generally too. Anything that suckers, you can generally divide up. Uh, so yeah. Thank you, Stan. Yes, free Palestine. Fuck the IOF. Basically, fuck anyone who is supporting the Trump administration in any way. And boy, jingos, um, this conditional recognition of Palestine just seems crazy. I don't understand um, the logical leap that people are trying to make, where it's okay for an occupying force to be militarized, but it's not okay for um, for an occupied people to resist militarily when under international law they have the they basically have a requirement to resist to maintain their uh, to maintain their claim on the territory. So anyway, all right, folks. Thank you. I just did download one of the uh, guides, so now I've just got to get the website behaving. I will let you know. Those of you who have contributed through Buy Me a Coffee or something will get emailed uh, as a matter of course. And actually, who Charlie or Stan, would you consider a membership option on Substack or Patreon? Because I don't want to maintain a pile of options. It's uh, it's just too much. It's just too much work. It's just too much work. I'd rather get I'd rather spend the time on the content and on the shows, and then have the website working, and then one other place where people like to go. I cannot put documents on Buy Me a Coffee, unfortunately. Um, so Buy Me a Coffee is really just a tipping and um, just a sort of catch up thing platform. But I can put documents and other materials on Patreon, and I think Patreon is what I would prefer to run with, or I can do everything on the website. But then people don't go to websites much these days. Only dinosaurs like me. Um, so let's let me know if you have a preference, or if you have a resistance to something like Patreon. Uh, Yeah, Stan, that's right. Yeah, Stan says they are doing good things for creators. Yeah, the um, uh, yeah, I mean, Patreon is uh, Patreon is really creator focused, and for YouTube creators and stuff, people are just so used um, uh, to people saying join me on the Patreon and whatnot. Uh, it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot of work to actually build something on Patreon, and sometimes you get to a pivot point, and I think I'm at that with the bird emergency, where the natural sort of uptake for the bird emergency, I think I've kind of reached that, and it will take an awful lot more work on all the different socials to build it further. And because it's been difficult to get guests, like so many of the bird emergency people guests, they're the ones that cancel out. That uh, it never used to be the case, but in the last year or so, so many people either never commit to making a date, that they will go, yeah, 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 yeah. Now that's either two things: one, they're really, really busy people and they're not able to commit to a date, or two, they aren't prepared to say no, I'm not interested. And that means I leave dates open in the calendar, and I tell other people that they can't have that because someone else is looking. It just becomes a whole lot of work where nothing happens, which is really, really frustrating. I may as well be better off just making things that don't involve guests, which I might do. Uh, uh, I really want to do the trivia, so maybe I will use what I've already done as a resource to do the trivia and really spend time on building the Discord um, and do the whole pivot thing. So I just want you guys, just telling you where my head is at, because when you move into a new platform, a new space, you've got to learn it. You've got to learn it, and it means you've got to use it. And you've got to interact with lots more people and get an understanding for what its strengths are and what its weaknesses are, and things are changing in the sort of internet creator space. Things that worked a year or two back don't work now. So it's yeah, there's a whole lot going on. A whole lot going on. And also, let's keep the personal stuff going for a minute. While I've been so frustrated with just the political situation, and you're looking around at all those people that you used to admire, and then you're seeing how Zionist pilled they are, and you're having to reassess some of the uh, the people that you thought were wise and genuine or worth paying attention to. I've I've been going back and rediscovering a whole lot of, as I've taken certain artists and bands off my favorite list because of who and what they do now, what they say now. I've been going back and rediscovering a whole lot of music that I've always liked, but I hadn't been listening to as often. And now with YouTube, it's such a great resource that you can find, old interviews that were never visible in Australia. TV shows that were never shown here. And now you can just find so much really interesting stuff. So that's been nourishing my soul in the last week or two. I've been spending a lot of time um, rediscovering or revisiting uh, people and music that I have been fans of. in the past, but that had sort of dropped off my radar, and that space had been filled by other people and other things. And now I discover that those other people are, are unbelievably toxic in terms of their worldview. And hey, I don't have I don't have space. I don't have the bandwidth to carry uh, that kind of crap. So I just get rid of it. It's like having if you need to have space in your on your hard drive and you got to delete some music. Well, yeah, I've been doing that. All right, folks. That I'm gonna pull a pin now. We'll see you next week on the Saturday. Do look out for the socials. Um, I'm trying to schedule a month of politics and issues stuff for not just another podcast. I'm also doing music reactions, but that's different. That's different thing again. And I think I'll only share that with you on not on these channels. I don't want to put the things out on these channels. Uh, I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to give the other channel names and stuff out on these channels. If you're interested in my music reactions, uh, just send me a message or send me an email and I'll share them that way. Um, uh, I'm trying to have some fun. trying to have some fun. All right. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your work week that's coming up. Look out 9:30 a.m. next Saturday morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be back talking about more habitat gardening. I want to advertise the topics too in advance. Get back to doing my socials like I was. All right, folks. See you later. I'm Grant. I'm a horticulturist. This has been Habitat Gardening on the Bird Emergency. See you later.